What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so this is the situation we have right here. This is Tropical Storm Fiona, and as you can see, it is continuing to organize and develop as time continues to progress. We have the latest from the NHC right here. This is the cone. Let's go ahead and pull up the public advisory for you as of 11 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time. Maximum sustained winds are still at 50 miles per hour. Tropical storm force winds are 140 miles from the center. Pressure is still 1,002 millibars. It is moving to the west at 13 to 14 miles per hour at this time right now. Here is the thing that is new, though. We now have tropical stormings for Antigua and Barbuda. We have tropical storm warnings in St. Kitts. We have one in Nevis. We have one in Montserrat, and we have one in Anguilla, issued from the United Kingdom. We also have a tropical storm warning in Saba and St. Eustatius. I'm not sure how to pronounce some of this, so I do sincerely apologize for that. But the important thing is, we have tropical storm warnings across parts of the Leeward Islands. Same thing with St. Martin right there. So, yeah. We also have more tropical storm watches for Guadalupe, St. Bartholomew, and St. Martin right there. So this has extended a little bit more to the south right there. So, yeah, this is the cone, ladies and gentlemen. It is expected to remain a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm for the next 12 hours, and then it's expected to strengthen to a 60-mile-per-hour storm before impacting the Leeward Islands, and then start strengthening in the Caribbean Sea as it's approaching Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. And from there, it's a little uncertain on what happens. It's a little uncertain on when that turn really begins, if it's going to be a full turn or if it's going to head towards the United States, towards the Carolinas. We're not entirely sure at this point, but what we do know is that that this system's getting more organized, because at the last advisory, all the tropical storm force winds were to the east of the center of circulation. Now we have more tropical storm force winds to the northwestern side of it. So, yeah, there is a little bit of wind shear impacting this, and we can pull it up right here. So, yeah, a little bit of wind shear to the north of this thing. So, yeah, that's what's limiting this development, but what's not limiting its strengthening to where it was stronger than expected at the last video is this warm water. 28 plus degree warm water across the Caribbean Sea. We're looking at 30 degrees Celsius for just offshore of Puerto Rico right there. So it gets even more warm as time continues to progress right there. And there is considerable ocean heat content in this part of the Caribbean Sea right now. So, yeah, depending on how that uses it and depending on how shear plays a role in that, that could depend on how strong this thing will get. So let's go ahead and take a look at the track models and the intensity. Track models, once again, we have a split here. We have some models starting to split after it impacts the Virgin Islands and makes a sharp turn up there. We do have the HWRF and HMON models kind of making a straight line at that point. We also have more models that have it kind of turning, but has it going as a straight line towards North and South Carolina right there, if you kind of play it out right there. It's just too early to say if this is going to impact Florida or the Carolinas or whatever. The GEPS does have an interesting run right here. This was initiated at 0Z or 7 p.m. last night, where this thing kind of organizes, kind of develops through Puerto Rico, through Hispaniola, kind of makes a little bit of a turn just off the coast of Cuba before impacting potentially the Fort Lauderdale area as the official track. The spaghetti plots have it going from all the way from Georgia down to Florida, and some have it going into the Gulf right there. It's just a little too early to say, and considering how far this is out, I'm taking this with a grain of salt. Intensity models are also interesting. We have more models of this thing now becoming a hurricane in the next few days right there, potentially after it hits Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. So, if this thing does head toward the United States, which that's a big if, considering how far out this is, we could potentially be seeing that, but right now, it's just too early to tell that. The main focus for right now is the Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico right now, because that's where they're in the line of fire. But yeah, we have half the models strengthening to a hurricane, half the models continuing it as a tropical storm. Another thing I want to note out is that if this thing does become a weaker system, if this thing stays at 50 miles per hour, even after the Leeward Islands, even after Puerto Rico, it only pushes it further to the west, because the Bermuda High will not have that much of an effect when it starts turning on it. It's only when it's a stronger system when the Bermuda High will start having a much greater effect with that. So If it remains weak now, that could mean a potential strengthening in the long term after 3 days. So I wanted to make that very clear with you guys. We're going to run a couple of models as well. We have the HMON and HWRF as well as the GFS. We're going to start with the HMON, as this is a decent model right there. If we take a look at the intensity right there, it does have it getting up to hurricane strength, so we'll have to continue to pay attention to it. So the HMON model is pretty interesting. This starts developing and strengthening into a hurricane the next day or so, which, if that wind shear drifts to the further to the north, I will believe that, but as of right now, I'm taking it with a grain of salt. And then it moves through the Lesser Antilles as a hurricane right there, and then the Virgin Islands, and then it turns more towards the north, east of Puerto Rico right there, and kind of stagnates kind of like that. So that's the first run we have. The GFS run, let's go ahead and pull that up for you guys. The GFS goes out 10 days. I want everyone to keep that in mind. So this thing's developing, organizing. This thing moves through the Lesser Antilles as a strong tropical storm or weak hurricane right there, and then through east of Puerto Rico right there, and then it kind of makes that drift more towards the northwest right there, and then kind of makes a shift to the east a little bit, and then it kind of makes another shift back towards the Carolinas. That's a little bit erratic for a system like this, so I'm less inclined to believe this in the long term, but short term, it does seem plausible that this thing makes landfall as either a strong tropical storm or a weak hurricane at this particular time. The HWRF model, we're gonna run this because this is an interesting system, because the HWRF is always incredibly aggressive when it comes to systems like this. Although it has been kind of more moderate when it comes to the Leeward Island impacts, the HWRF has this thing moving through as a strong tropical storm or weak hurricane, but it does strengthen as it approaches the Virgin Islands. It moves east of Puerto Rico, and then it kind of just makes that turn there, and then it kind of just moves in that straight line right there as a Cat 2 hurricane at this point. So that's going to wrap up this video for today. I know this is longer than expected, but we had more information to cover. We also have hurricane hunters that are going to go out to Fiona to investigate the system, and hopefully we can get some data soon. We will be covering the system on the Pat's Path Predictor channel, so be sure to subscribe to the channel. We are currently sitting at 1,432 subscribers at the time of recording, so it is very much appreciated that you guys are doing that. Be sure to like the video as well and comment your thoughts down below. But with that being said, have a wonderful day. Stay safe.